first one up here. The market is in slow motion melt up. Ed Yardeni has that to say. Let's get into this.
Key inflation data. We're joined by Ed Yardeni, who's president of Yardeni Research. Ed, it's good to see you.
Thank you.
Good morning. Ed, just overall, looking at 30,000 feet, seems like the labor market might be starting to ease a little bit, which would be probably friendly for the Fed's proposed action. Inflation also under control. How are you feeling? Sanguine about all these things?
I am actually. I kind of view what's going on in the labor market as normalization. I think everybody's looking at the data and saying it's getting weaker. It's only getting weaker relative to some of the pandemic-related data points that we had a year or two ago. The fact of the matter is most of the indicators suggest that we're back to a fairly normal labor market where jobs increase by 150 to 200,000 per month. Wages continue to go up, beat consumer price inflation, and the consumer has the purchasing power to continue to spend, which is what drives the economy.
Any eyebrows raised for you when you see the NASDAQ just almost off?
Ed Yardeni, so what are we looking at here, Ed? In all due respect, what are we seeing actually out there in reality from these companies' earnings and guidance? If you're a B2C company, you're likely in a tough place right now. And we're seeing just about every single B2C stock out there, it seems like, is going through a lot of troubles. It seems like there's a lot of famous B2C companies that are going through a whole lot more trouble than those sorts of companies that are hitting 52-week highs and all-time highs. The only real area that we're seeing actually strong demand out there is really B2B. So, I gotta definitely disagree with him. I think Ed makes it sound like the consumer's doing great and these consumer companies are doing great, and they're just not.
It looks like a stilt almost, and not necessarily seeing that across the board. Any trouble signs there?
Well, we've both been doing this for a while, and I think we both lived through the 1990s experience. So there's a bit of deja vu all over again when we look at the market and compare it to what happened in the late 1990s. I think the way I would describe things is we're in a slow motion melt up. The market just for the past few weeks has just continued to march higher to new record highs, and it's done it on disappointing economic indicators because I think investors have concluded that let's not worry too much about the economy slowing or even a recession, because if that were to even become a significant risk, the Fed will move pretty quickly to lower interest rates. I don't think the Fed needs to lower interest rates, but the Fed looks like they're ready to lower them if necessary.
In terms, I think we're going to get earnings starting at the end of this week, and then we'll be, immersed for the next couple of weeks. What do you have an S&P earnings estimate for the next 12 months or so, and what type of multiple would you need to get where we are in the S&P?
Yeah, I think we're going to do $250 a share this year. That's up from $225 a share last year. I think next year we're going to do $270 a share, then $300 a share. By the end of the decade, I think we could be looking at $400 a share. Wow. Look, I think Becky just did a really excellent interview with the head there of Corning. And that just demonstrated that the AI story is legitimate. There's a lot of companies that are benefiting from AI. Not all of it's going to turn out to be as magic as being touted, but a lot of it will, in fact, be so. And I'm looking at during the second quarter for a lot of companies to give us some specific examples of how AI is starting to make a difference in their productivity and cost cutting.
All that said, Ed, do you spend any time losing sleep over how much money we owe, the federal government owes at this point?
Hold your horses for just a second. Hold your horses. Listen, the federal government's been in massive debt for a massively long time, a lot longer than I've been here on this planet, okay? So that is nothing new. Are the levels bigger than they've ever been? Yes, but the same could be said almost, look at pretty much just about every single decade for like the last 80, 100 years. It's just gone up and up and up almost every single decade. Actually, I think it's every single decade throughout time. So, nothing new.
During the day, at night, I tend to sleep pretty well.
You did melatonin?
Look, we've been doing, again, you and I have been doing this for a while, and anybody who's been doing this for a while can recall that the deficit issue has been a day of reckoning issue for a very long time, and the day of reckoning just keeps getting postponed. So I'm still in that camp that it's a problem. I tend to be an optimist, but I can't put lipstick on that pig. And I guess my thinking is that the day of reckoning will come, and when the day of reckoning does come, there will be a political solution. It's a man and woman-made problem. It's not as though we can't, at some point, come up with a program that over a 10-year period reduces outlays, or the growth rate of outlays, relative to taxation, and the taxation has increased somewhat. But for now, Janet Yellen's figured out a very simple way to calm the bond vigilantes down, and that is, anytime they worry about too much supply of bonds and notes, she just says, okay, so we'll do more of it in bills, and that calms the bond market down. In addition, the inflation numbers have been great, and I think they're coming down to 2% here pretty quickly. And that, too, I think will placate the bond market.
Yeah, I think we need higher inflation to make the future debt payments less.
That's a really interesting point. They just keep doing more in bills when they can't get the notes.
Right.
That's right.
We've been doing that for a while. Yeah. That's right.
So the first time I ever really became aware of the federal debt is 2008. That's when I first started in college, fall 2008. And that was when I first learned about, there's this thing called the national debt and how much the government owes and those sorts of things. And I even remember back in those days, people saying like, this is doomsday, like the government's never going to be able to pay all this back. And at that time, they were starting to do like the TARP program and a bunch of other different government programs that were very costly at that particular time. Nowadays, we look at that and be like, that's like nothing. Like even like the 750 billion, like nowadays it's like, that's nothing. But back then it was a huge deal. And, and so just understand that's going to be talked about probably every year forever, just to be quite frank about the national debt, the deficit, how much interest we owe on the debt, right? All these sorts of subjects are going to continue to be talked about again and again and again. And as an American, I do wish we got things under control, but also I think it's actually a worldwide problem. When you look at a lot of these other countries, it's not like the United States is the only guy that spends more than what they got coming in. We're just one of basically all the guys that are basically doing that at the end of the day. So anyways, that's kind of my feeling in regards to that. Hey, I want to thank you so much for watching that clip. I hope you really enjoyed it. What I'm showing you in front of your face right now is 1000xstocks.com. This is such an important website and service to use if you want to research companies, if you want to understand companies on a high level, so you can hopefully get better results in the market. And we know as the years tick on, money compounds. It is so important you research companies, you compare companies, you're listening to conference calls, looking at SEC filings. All that's included into 1000xstocks.com. So to enjoy 1000xstocks.com and to apply for that service, you can go to the description area of this video, or you can go to 1000xstocks.com, whichever you prefer. Alrighty, let's get into this next one with a panel here talking about rate cuts.
Today, before the House Financial Services Committee down in Washington, bring you any more headlines that you need to know about. There have been several...
By the way, we had 10 people hit six-figure club in the private group, and 2 people hit $1 million plus in the private group. So congrats to you guys. Those awards are being sent out today. I believe my wife's sending them out, so I signed them all up today. So congrats to you guys. If you're looking to apply to join my private group, I'll put that as a pinned comment down there today. You can click on that, fill out an application, see if we can get you in there. Access to all my best courses, access to Discord chat, exclusive videos, all that good stuff.
To this point that are rather significant. Perhaps the reason why the stock market is near the highs of the day, extending those record highs on the S&P and the NASDAQ, but Dow's good for about 160 as well. You could make the case that the Fed chair really stayed the course to what he said yesterday before Senate banking, setting the table, if you will, for a rate cut over the next couple of months. He did say today, not going to wait until 2% to cut rates. Job not done, but inflation is moving substantially and sustainably down to target, but also mentioned the labor market once again, which he says has cooled rather significantly. I've got the investment committee with me here: Joe Terranova, Shannon Sakosha, Brian Belsky, farmer Jim Lebenthal. I mean, that's what we're talking about today. He continues to make the case. He talks about the two-sided risks, but he continues to underscore that the labor market has cooled, and he knows they're on the clock, that they need to do something before the labor market gets out of hand.
Absolutely, and he's focused on the labor market. They have a dual mandate. It's inflation and labor. He told you already he doesn't need 2% on inflation for the Federal Reserve to cut rates. He's focused on what's going on in the labor market. He told you it's cooling significantly. The rate cut is coming in September. The market is pricing it in, and you're actually getting a little bit of the broadening out today.
Brian Belsky, you've got your 5,600 target.
Not
We're
really.
above that level for the first time ever.
Welcome
Today.
to the year end.
But you say you're sticking with it. Why are you sticking with it?
You know, we are. 7 months ago, when we came out and talked about this market, we said that in the second year of a bull market, you typically see a 9.4% correction. We've only had a 5.5% correction. And we still think there's way too many bulls out there, and we think there's a very good chance we get a pullback. Now, our bull case is for 6,000. We really think that we get a better buying opportunity to add to stocks, and then we'll have a very strong recovery from that to the tune of 15 to 20%, which is on average.
Yeah, it's just a flawed way of thinking. I don't want to say it's a flawed way of thinking. It's a flawed way of investing, which then you could say is also a flawed way of thinking. But it's a flawed way of investing. Listen, guys, that's like me saying, I really like Nike stock 71, but maybe it's going to have a correction and it's going to go to 62, and so I'll wait to 62. Okay, it's a flawed way of investing because a lot of times what you're hoping, the stock never goes there, okay? So if you feel like it's a great deal, you got to take advantage of that deal, right? If you think the market's going to 6,000, you've got to buy at 5,500, not like, oh, maybe I can get it at 5,400 and then it will go. Like, it's a flawed way of investing, guys. It's absolutely ridiculous. So don't do that sort of stuff. These guys all try to do it, and it usually ends bad.
Why shouldn't you be bullish, given what the Fed chair is telling you?
The market's got it right today. I mean, this is amazing. Yeah.
Well,
so
just today?
No. Well, let's talk about today. I think the market has gotten it right in terms of the path of interest rates. Now, it just means that I just think that the momentum is too centered on buying right now. We're going to get a little overbought on a technical basis. From a fundamental perspective, we still believe that we're in a 25-year secular bull market, Scott. This is the second year of the cyclical bull part of it, and we're going to get a pullback.
More worried than you've been in years is what you told us the other day. Give us, a read into your psyche and what you're thinking about this market today. As we said, we're extending the record highs. S&P 500 above 5,600 for the first time ever. Technology's leading. Nasdaq's good for, 0.75% today as rates are down and kind of everything's up. The financials are the only sector that's in the red.
Yeah, well, I'm going to field the question you gave to Brian just a second ago of, why wouldn't the markets be bullish is because the string of rather poor economic reports that we've had for several weeks now. I won't go through a long list, but we've seen initial weekly jobless claims and continuing claims pop up. We saw ISM services go below 50. I don't want to go through a long list, but here's the good news. If Joe is right, and I think he is, by the way, that what Chairman Powell is saying is that we'll get a rate cut in September, we can make it through. It's going to be a bumpy ride, and it actually critically depends on the earnings reports coming up, not just being good for the second quarter, because who cares? We already know that was good. What it critically depends on is the guidance going forward.
These Wall Streeters make such a big mistake, such a huge mistake. They think that because the Fed starts cutting rates, it's going to fix all the issues with, let's say, the economy. It's not how it works. Remember where the Fed funds rate is at right now, right? We're at, 5.5? Something like that? Okay, so let's say the Fed cuts in September. How much are they going to cut? The one, it's still a question if they're going to cut in September, but let's say they do. How much are they going to cut? I'll tell you how much. 25 basis points. 25 basis points on a 5.5% rate is nothing. Nothing. If you think that's going to magically change the economy for the better or the worse, it's not going to do anything. No different than if the Fed raised 0.25. It's going to do a whole lot of nothing, right? Other than it just kind of send bad signals to the market. But does it actually do anything underlying? Not really. So for the Fed, if they came out and they lowered, Fed funds rate by 100 basis points, it's a whole different ballgame. That's a full percentage, right? Okay, now we're talking. 200 basis points, 2 full percentage points. So then taking Fed funds rate down 3.25, 3.5. Okay, now we're talking. But how long is it going to take till we get the Fed funds rate down even 100 basis points? Never mind 200. It's going to take a year, if not 2 years, to get down there, outside of the economy completely falling off the rails. So the damage that's being done by Fed funds rate is going to continue to eat up this economy and continue to eat up a lot of companies for at least a year, likely. Okay? So that's what's important to remember here. And they're all thinking like it's just going to be great because the Fed's going to lower 25 basis points. I'm like, it doesn't work that way. It's good that they're signaling they're going lower, but we're like way up. It's like Mount Everest we're on right now, right? There's the highest Fed funds rate we've had in like 20 years. So picture we're up on Mount Everest, and you know we go down our first 50 feet and we're celebrating, right? Like there's still a long way down that mountain than 50 feet, I can tell you that much, right? And that's the way I'd view this whole situation in regards to the Fed lowering rates and things like that.
Tomorrow, Scott, you know that. Mr. Bastian, the CEO of Delta, here's a guy who is generally quite optimistic. The last thing in the world that you want to see is him saying something negative about demand going forward for air travel. I mean, that would make it difficult to bridge the 2 months from here until that first rate cut. And I know there's some people who are saying, what does 25 basis points really matter? It's a clear sign that they're going to continue to lower.
It matters as much as it mattered on the way up.
Exactly.
It's the beginning.
Exactly.
Of
if you don't fight the Fed on the way up, then you applaud them on the way down.
Shan, 6,000, the highest target we have on the street from Evercore ISI. Has the market got this right?
I think they may. I think that the challenge, they may. With a higher probability than 50%.
Okay. Why the hesitation?
Well, I think the path to get there is critically important. So what haven't we talked about today? What haven't we talked about? The bond market. What haven't we talked about? Expectations of potentially higher fiscal spending to thwart the efforts of the Fed to bring inflation down. Those are concerns that we start to see crop up perhaps in that August, September, October timeframe. When you start to think about what derailed us last year, Scott, was it fundamentals in the stock market? No, it was concerns about the bond market.
Well, there were concerns about the bond market. Now their rates would be moving up. In fact, they're not. That story's known.
They're not right now. So I think the challenge here goes back to Jim's comment. We are looking at an environment where everything that the Fed is looking at and everything that many economists are looking at are in the rearview mirror. So does the macro matter right now to keep this rally going? Probably not as much as it did if we get that rate cut in September, because then the macro picture is known. More about the guidance of the second half of the year. Where are we seeing slowing? But more importantly, where are we going to see growth? Are we going to finally see reshoring? Are we going to see industrial capex? Are we going to see the financials come out and talk about a rebirth in capital market activity? Because there's going to have to be something where you see earnings growth slow incrementally in big tech. Earnings growth is expected to pick up for outside of big tech, but you need to see that in the next 3 or 4 quarters to keep the dream alive.
Yes, no doubt about that, 100%. So we're at a very interesting standpoint, and at the end of the day, we all just need to keep in mind that when the Fed does lower, whether that's September, whether that's November, whatever, okay, whenever that move does happen, just keep in mind that it doesn't really change much of anything, other than the Fed's signaling they're entering a rate cut cycle, right? That's all that signals. But it doesn't actually make any substantial difference to the underlying economy. It doesn't make any substantial difference to the damage that's being done in the economy from high interest rates over a long period of time, right? The Fed lags catch up more and more the longer Fed funds rates at a much more elevated place than it's been over the past 10, 20 years, right? And so these are just all, things that just you got to factor in. That's why I have some hedges on the market. Guess what? Next year, I'm going to have hedges on in the market as well, okay?